Okay, it's time to cut. What? That's right. That's right.
This is Mongo Slate. So we're going to talk about AEW Dynamite from January the 20th, 2021. This was -1's birthday bash, which is -1 is Baby Brody, or Little Brody, birthday. The Dark Order had a birthday cake for him. They were going to sing Happy Birthday. Then the Chaos Project came out there and interrupted it with Dr. Luther talking, which is... It's quite the way to start the show with Dr. Luther talking. That's the last thing I was interested in, especially him interrupting a child's birthday. I get they're trying to get heat, but come on. So the Dark Order attacked him, of course, and then Hybrid 2 interfered, and then Hangman Page came out to help them. It was like 400 members of the Dark Order, and yet they needed Hangman Page. That's really weird. Anyway, Hangman Page teamed up with the Dark Order to face the Hybrid 2 and the Chaos Project. It was an absolute spot fest, which of course it was, because it featured Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Jack Evans. So they did all the spots. They did a bunch of spots. And Page did a spot with all of the members of the Dark Order on his back, and he fell back on Serpentico. But this was botched, because once everybody jumped on his back, they fell down. And then Serpentico had to keep laying there as they reset or they got back up just to do the spot. Weird. You should really know, like, if the spot is blown, it's blown. Just move on. Dr. Luther's face got smashed into a cake, which of course it did. They could have did that during the promo and just saved us about 15 minutes and did something else with this show. Eventually, of course, the Dark Order win. So, whatever. So, they do the birthday thing where the cake is all over the face and everything. And Brody Jr. says that his birthday was 3 days ago, and he hit Serpentico with a kendo stick. And he called everybody idiots, and he left. So the highlight of the show was the kid hitting another slightly older kid with a kendo stick. So John Silver then starts doting on Hangman Page. Basically, damn near writing him a love letter. Like I said last week, he might as well just wash his underwear. And he called him handsome and a bunch of other stuff, and asked him to join the Dark Order. And Hangman Page said no. He said he can't. And then it was a bunch of stuff like confetti and a big sign on the Trine talking about, oh, he said yes, and all the Dark Order come running out, thinking that of course he was going to join the Dark Order. And, then Page was like, no. And everybody was all disappointed. Oh. And then he says that he had fun hanging out with the Dark Order, but he's not doing any groups anymore. Then he grabbed a bottle of liquor and walked away. So, you got, Adam, his name is Adam. I just keep writing out Hangman Page. I don't know, is his name actually Adam? Yes, it's Adam. Okay, Adam Page has been stuck in this whole drunk thing for quite a while now. I think it's time for him to move on. We've been doing drunk Hangman Page, drunk sad cowboy for quite a while now. He needs to stop drinking that brown liquor. The Dark Order, I still hate them. Like I said before, you might not be able to turn them heel because of the whole Brody thing. And I guess, yes, they are doing something for Little Brody, but they need to do something with this group. This group sucks. Like, it's the same people that sucked before. Just if you want to add goodwill because Brody Lee was a part of the group, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think we can continue this storyline. This team sucks. And it's not going anywhere anymore. Like, this is what I said. I didn't say this, but maybe I should have. I'm going to say it here, though. The whole thing about the Dark Order was people were holding on hope because they wanted to know who the Exalted One was. Who was the Exalted One going to be? And that's what people was holding out hope for. It was holding out hope that the Exalted One was going to be somebody interesting and that was going to make the Dark Order good. Then we found out that the Exalted One was Brody Lee. It was a mixed reaction. Some people really loved it, of course, because they love everything AEW does. Some people was kind of like, okay, we'll see how it goes. And then from there, it got even more mixed as, Brody Lee got mixed reactions for his portrayal of what it was supposed to be, Vince McMahon parody. Then it wasn't a parody. Then he was supposed to be like an evil businessman. Then he was supposed to be like a cult leader. And we never really got both feet in the water on this situation, despite the fact that it was going on for a long time. We never decided whether it was fish or fowl, whether it was a cult or an evil corporation, even though it was coming across like a cult. So then he died. And then because he died, all of a sudden we're stuck with this gimmick. It's like this gimmick was dead from the beginning. He should never have been a part of it, if we're being honest. This fucking sucks. He could have did something else. But, we're stuck with the Dark Order anyway. So, MJF and Chris Jericho cut a promo where MJF doesn't want this match. He doesn't want to cause dissension. He doesn't think this match is a good idea. Jericho says, no. This is good. This is a good friendly gesture. They're going to have this match, and then everybody's going to go back to being friends, which is weird to say. So Tony Schiavone and Sting and Darby Allin share the ring in the next segment, where Sting says Darby reminds him of himself and congratulated him. And he came out there the previous week to help Darby, not because he thought Darby needed help, but because he wanted to make sure Darby had a fair fight. And then Taz whines again, said that you guys like to fight dirty. You guys like to use the street style. You look me up. I am street style. And, talking about, back in the day when Taz was actually tough and not like a big crybaby. And talking about his boys have been fair, but he challenged them to take it to the streets. If you guys want to fight dirty, you want to take it to the streets, let's take it to the streets. So Darby Allin says, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And that's the end of the segment. They delivered what they promised. Sting did congratulate Darby Allin, but that's about all they did. I just find it very strange that we're in this situation where Sting's storyline is, you remind me of me. The end. You remind me of me. I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I have no individual qualities that you like. I just remind you of you, and you like you, so I guess that's cool. Like Sting wakes up, looks in the mirror, and like, I like you, and I like everyone who kind of looks like you, and everyone who kind of acts like you. So, but Taz is, I know he's a heel, but he's whining a lot, and he doesn't really sound tough. And then Ricky Starks is the guy who's talking about, you want to take it to the streets, man? And it's like, Ricky Starks probably isn't the guy to deliver that line. He's not the tough guy of the group. Why they don't let Hobbs talk? Like, we know Cage ain't got nothing to say. Who cares what Cage has to say anyway? He's a jabroni. You should have just let Hobbs say, like, I know about the streets. Y'all ain't ready for the streets. And then, that's the team. Maybe Hobbs and Starks or something like that. But we're in a situation here where maybe Sting and Darby Allin are going to fight these guys, which is fine. But it's going to be very odd seeing people say, oh, well, Sting's not going in there going over on people. So it's like, so either Sting's going to lose this match, and that means Darby Allin has to lose, or Sting is going to go over on some guys who are bigger than him, stronger than him, and half his age. So good luck. But see, there's a lot of people who I stopped with the whole hypocrisy thing. I'm gonna try to stop with it. Let's say that, because I did see somebody basically just say, "I'm a hypocrite, so what?" And that's really what you get when you call people hypocrites. Is like, you think that they're going to change their behavior, but they don't. They just accept that they're a hypocrite, or they just deny it and move on. It only bothers you that they're a hypocrite. So I'm just going to mention here that there is a lot of people who have a problem with Bill Goldberg going and doing a 2-minute match and losing. How are you going to justify being a fan of this Sting situation, knowing that it means he's going to have to wrestle people half his age and most likely win? I'm just saying. That's the question you have to put up to with yourself. Now we had something that was actually weird. The Young Bucks decided to just go with Kenny Omega's house, and they decided to go with a camera crew and Alex Marvez. You brought a camera crew and Alex Marvez to this man's house. They go into the house. The house is dreadfully empty. It doesn't look lived in at all. Michael Nakazawa was walking around with a laptop. And okay, so he leads them to where Kenny Omega is supposed to be. Then we find out Kenny Omega's not even in the house. So why didn't he say that? I guess it was a language barrier. So there's three things in this that was particularly funny to me. One, I love the oil painting. The oil painting part was actually pretty funny to me. It's delusional heel stuff. I enjoy that shit. It was over the top. It was funny. Second is the bearded buck, who I'm thinking is Matt. Please correct me in the comment section if there's another one. I know it's Matt and Nick, but sometimes I forget which one it is. I think Balding is Nick. Is the one who's got he's got the George Jefferson. He's working on his George Jefferson hairline. But the bearded buck has a 1992 HBK cross earring in his ear. And I just looked at that shit as it dangled and shimmered in the light and said to myself, these motherfuckers, boy. They're so... They just have no self-awareness at all. But ultimately, I did like this segment. I like this segment because once they started talking to Don Callis, they started bitching at him about the previous week, about, Don Callis and how he's kind of screwed them over. So Don Callis breaks out his checkbook. And he's like, I'm going to pay you guys for your 12 years of friendship to Kenny Omega. I'm going to pay you for your 12 years of friendship. So the Young Bucks were the worst part of this thing because they didn't have any bass in their voice, and it wasn't emotional. And they was just kind of like they was trying to bicker with him, and Callis was trying to get rid of them. Because again, he talks like a car salesman. So he's talking really fast, and he's trying to, solve the problem before the problem really occurs. And the Young Bucks are like, you weren't with us when we were lost in the sushi bar in Japan, man. When we were opening the show at the Tokyo Dome, you weren't there. Where were you? And he was like, I had other things to do. I was in the background pulling the strings. And he tried to give them this check, which of course they had to reject because they make more money than that on merchandise, because they're big merchandise guys. Like lying about the cease and desist letter, apparently. I'm not going to get into that, but that was very interesting that I figured that part out. That Tama Tonga threw that out. He threw that out there 3 years ago, that it was a lie. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know how much of that stuff is. I was going to do a video on the Tama Tonga and the whole Bullet Club idea, but I don't know how much of that is a work and how much of it is shoot. So I decided not to, because I don't want to be like, Tama Tonga really hates these guys, and it turned out to really be a work. And I'll get worked and look dumb. So I'm just going to, even though he has been calling them out on Twitter a lot, he's been calling them out on Twitter for like 3 years. So it's probably a shoot. But I couldn't confirm that this stuff is a shoot, so I didn't bother. But I feel like it was very, very, very interesting that we ended up in this situation. So the Young Bucks are like, how dare you? How double dog dare you try to buy us out and try to pay us for our friendship? And then Don Callis kind of broke down and was like, okay, listen, guys. You guys were great friends to Kenny Omega at one point, 12 years, great friends. But now you guys are holding him back. And they're like, what? He's like, yeah, like you guys are holding him back. Like he's ready for new ventures. He's ready to move on, do different things in life. And you guys are, what he said, they were like friends from the old neighborhood that are trying to hang on. And, then he kicks Alex Marvez out. He kicks the cameraman out, sends them to the dungeon, which is the basement of Kenny Omega's house. Oddly enough, he would call it the dungeon, right? Especially since they're supposed to be from Winnipeg, and the dungeon was in was a Calgary thing. Anyway, he, I particularly like this line here. This is the best line the Young Bucks had. They told him, "We used to work for that company you work for, so we know that check isn't any good." I like that line. That was a good line. Now, me and a couple of my subscribers kind of noticed they do a lot of shitting on Impact when it comes to AEW. They shit on Impact a lot. Not only are their guys going over on Impact's guys, which nobody has noticed yet except for probably the people on this side of the internet, but they're also taking a lot of childish digs at Impact about how Impact was so close to bankruptcy. You know, Tony Schiavone talked about how bad Impact is and how stupid Access TV is. And yeah, you could say it's kayfabe. You could say that, but Impact doesn't take any shots back. In fact, when you listen to Impact talk about AEW, usually glowing. Oh, AEW it's so exciting having AEW around. Oh, I love AEW so much. You got Matt Stryker talking about, we would like to thank all of you guys in AEW, and, you know, giving shout outs to JR and Excalibur. And it's like, when you sit down and you look at it, it's like AEW is just shitting and wiping their ass with an Impact. And it's only been going on for about a month. So maybe things will change. And I know that AEW is supposed to be the heel in this situation, but comes across like these guys just like shitting on Impact. And I think that's weird. You know, if I was on the Impact roster, I'll be scratching my chin. Like I said in my previous video, I'm beginning to think that Impact is just basically going to be AEW's developmental. And I will be scratching my chin if I was, you know, a top level person in Impact. Especially if you signed a long-term contract there, like you chose to work there. And now you just, every Wednesday, your show is getting shit on. And, you know, eventually it's going to start damaging the product. It's going to start damaging morale too. You know, so I'm just saying. So the next match, I don't know how long we were into this show before another match happened, was Pretty Peter Avalon versus Cody Rhodes. And Cody on Twitter said he's going to beat Peter Avalon in a minute. And he very well almost did that by hitting him with the crossroads almost immediately. So instead of pinning him, of course, Cody had to fuck off, right? He had to flex and doing all this other stuff. And then he gets distracted by theme music, which is, you know, the crazy thing is wrestlers have this crazy kryptonite. It's called theme music. If you play music around a wrestler, they instantly just become like a squirrel. Like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? Where? It's like they have no idea that people might be. It's like you're in a crowd of 1,000 people, 1,000,000 people, 140,000 people screaming and yelling. Somebody bound to break out into song, right? Like in the UK, they used to sing all the time. You know, like in NXT, they used to sing all the time. Like, hey, Bailey, who? I want to know, would you be my girl? And she never got distracted by that. She never just stopped and was like, oh my God, what's going on? There's songs, there's music, there's notes, there's rhythm. I can't wrestle with rhythm around me. And it's like, these wrestlers, man, they just get so distracted by music nowadays. It's so fucking dumb. We need to stop with music for run-ins. How about that? It seems to me that if you play music, you're justifying the run-in. You're legitimizing the run-in. That's a better word. Legitimizing it. Because you only play music when somebody is literally coming out. Right? If they're not supposed to be out there, no music should play. So, anyway, because the music played, Cody didn't pin Peter Avalon. He survived the minute. Jade Cargill strutted out there, you know, swole as can be. Crossed her arms and stared at Cody. Said nothing, did nothing. Cody told her to get out of here. And the referee turned around and was like, hey, what's going on? And then when Cody turned back around, Peter Avalon kicked him in the balls. And they didn't even pretend that Peter Avalon really had a shot, but he got an unnecessary amount of offense. These guys just will not do a squash match. This was a squash match that they elongated completely unnecessarily. This match was, It's so dumb. They botched a leapfrog. Peter Avalon and Cody botched a leapfrog. Then the finish, which was absolutely one of the most offensive finishes in wrestling. This guy is in the figure four leg lock. Ric Flair's figure four leg lock. He's not tapping out, not because the figure four leg lock. No. That would mean the figure four leg lock actually hurts. You know, the figure four leg lock will actually have to hurt in order for you to submit in it, right? This guy tapped out because Cody was going to slap him in the face because he's pretty. He doesn't want to get hit in the face. So he tapped out rather than get slapped in the face. I slapped Cody in the face. So Arn, of course, chided Cody for his flagrant bullshit that he's been doing for almost a year now. He got a guy that he shouldn't be wrestling, and he's just, fucking off with this guy. And you would think, and this story kind of made sense a little bit when they were telling this story with Cody versus the indie people, because okay, Cody is, big star. He's arrogant that he's a big star. Fine. Warhorse, Sunny Kiss. Who cares about these people, right? It makes sense. But, and in this situation, it even made sense because, like, who cares about Peter Avalon? Like, really, who gives a shit? But once he got, taken out by, Brody Lee or something like that, it should have refocused him. Now he's just basically, unless you're John Moxley, he doesn't give a shit. He's going to flex and do push-ups and stuff. And he's like, whatever. But whatever. Who cares? Nobody cares about this shit. They need to do something about that Cody and Snoop Dogg remix to his song. That fucking sucks. That remix, not good. I don't even understand the lyrics. And what they tried to do basically is they saw, oh, the WWE did it for Sasha Banks. All of a sudden, I'm kind of like Sasha Banks. I mean, I'm kind of like related to Snoop. Like, I'm on a show with him. So we shared a cup once. Like, what? We shared a chair once. So I'm kind of like his cousin too. So I'm kind of like Snoop Dogg's cousin. Like, we're like best friends. Like, his number is in my phone, like right now. Like, is that that's fantastic, right? I when I was a kid and I was watching my dad on TV, and I was just like, I would never thought I would have Snoop Dogg's phone number. Like, that's crazy. It's like, stop this stupid shit. Turn it back. It was cool for that one moment, but turn it back. I hated Cody's theme in the first place, but this new theme is trash. It is absolute trash. It sucks. It sucks. Get rid of this shit. Okay, so, oh boy. Okay, so FTR is number one tag team in the AEW, and they immediately get interrupted by Jurassic Express and this whole dog and pony show. And Jurassic Express interrupts them, and Jungle Boy is going to talk. I'm like, okay, well, let's see how this turns out. So Jungle Boy says, you guys might be the number one tag team in the country and in the world. In the country, the world, something like that. AEW, whatever. It's not relevant. But I learned one thing wrestling you guys, and I can beat either one of you. And so they just look stupefied, like, where does this kid come from? So Dax Harwood stands up and he says, like, don't let the salt and pepper beard and mislead you. I'm not one of these play wrestlers you wrestle around with. And I was like, okay, that's good. I like that. I like that they didn't even debate or bicker about which one of them was going to do it. It was kind of like, this is Jungle Boy, we're going to beat him up. So, okay, Jungle Boy versus Dax Harwood. Luchasaurus says some stuff, but who cares? He's a bum. Only places like What Culture think that guy's a star. Fuck out of here, really. Come on. He's a dinosaur. He's a dinosaur. So I expect Jungle Boy to win this match. Just because Jungle Boy he's been in the same spot for a long time. They have said Dax can lose a singles match and not be hurt because he's a tag team wrestler. And Jungle Boy also could lose because he's been mostly presented as a tag team wrestler. But I think that if Jungle Boy is going to be one of your guys going forward, you kind of have to give him some big wins eventually. And I think that going over on Dax, maybe I'll change my mind on it in a week if I see it happen, depending on how they do it, of course. I'm not mean he's going to go in there, hit him with a stunner, and pin him in like 15 seconds. I'm like, no, that would suck. But like a hard back and forth match where the kid shows some guts and shows some toughness, and then maybe he steals one with a roll up or something like that, that works just fine. That's fine for me. I'm not mad at that. So then we get Jon Moxley versus Nick Camarado, who is a wild looking guy who looks a lot like, the Berserker. He looks like Bruiser Brody. Like this big, meaty guy. He's thick in the arms and the back. Kind of wild and woolly. And then JR tells me he's got a degree in accounting. Okay. You expect me to believe that this big hulking guy here is sitting down fucking around with Excel spreadsheets? See, this is what I mean. Like when Britt Baker was talking about, oh, JR, he kept telling people I was a dentist. That didn't hurt Britt Baker at all. She's just full of shit. But you telling me this big dude, who I'm looking at eat chops and walk through stuff, is really an accountant, or he got an accountant's degree. I just say, like, did I need to know that? Like, if he played sports or something, he played linebacker for Mississauga State or whatever the fuck, I mean, fine. All right, he played basketball, he played volleyball on some team or something, or he's got like a boxing record. Okay, cool. I don't need to know this guy's fucking degrees. Like, I don't want to picture this guy sitting at a desk with a laptop doing Excel. I don't want to picture that. I don't need that. The guy was fine. He looked great. He did. He legitimately looked great. And I'm not mad at this match went of length and he got offense. Usually I say, well, why didn't Moxley just kill this dude? But they were showing like, this is a big guy. He's different. Moxley can't just walk through this guy. He's a big one. I like that. I just hate that he's in AEW because it's not going to work out for him. You see how they book every other big guy. But he's a big dude. Moxley tried to clothesline him. It didn't really work. So it was cool. They told a good story of this being the only guy that was man enough to stand up and fight Moxley. I'm like, okay, that was fine. Moxley wins with a rear naked choke. He didn't even get to tap out. It was a referee stoppage, so they protected the guy a little bit. Fine. Excellent. Everything about this Nick Camarado thing was cool. He's got an interesting look. Like they could have kept some of that backstory, but he came out of nowhere and was able to stand toe to toe with with a former world champion for a little while. I think the Peter Avalon match was actually longer than this. Maybe I'm wrong, but the guy got, he hit some pretty big moves on Moxley. He didn't look bad. They need to take the chains off of him. Give him a gimmick. I don't know what you do, because you've already introduced him as Nick Camarado. But maybe you call him, they'd probably do something silly like Caveman Camarado. Nick, the Caveman Camarado. And he comes out like, dressed like, there's a guy in CMLL. His name is Barbario Cavernario or something like that. And he dressed like goddamn Fred Flintstone. And it's, but I wouldn't be surprised if AEW starts doing that. We're going to call him Caveman Cavernario or some Caveman Camarado. He's going to carry a club. He's going to like Barney Rubble. That would be the shits. And that would exactly be something that they might do. What I would do though is basically I would push this guy. I would probably find some way to feature him on the show. Maybe as a tag team partner of somebody, to get him some reps. But he needs to be on the show. Like he's a big dude. Seems to have some type of future. They need to kind of find a way to get him to mix in. Maybe somebody needs a bodyguard or, something like that. That will work out just fine. So Moxley gets on the microphone, cuts a pretty good promo. He starts talking about he can't keep track of all the people coming and going and who's in clubs and who's not and who the Impact guys are. But he says all bringing in Gallows and Anderson did was make it more fun. More necks to break, more bodies to stack, and more blood to spill. And he said all roads through this business lead through him. And I thought that was pretty good. This is what I meant when I said that Moxley kind of carries a unique energy. He's starting to find his groove. It took a long time, but I think he's finally found maybe the sweet spot with this character where it's not too much. He's not as cringe, but his promos are hitting the right spot because now he's finally has something to say. He didn't really have much to say before. He was basically cutting generic tough guy promos, and these aren't really generic. They're very specific to this situation. So, okay, I like that promo. That was a good promo. I'm gonna keep that one in my back pocket. I like that. Next, we got Eddie Kingston. And Eddie Kingston is going to fight Lance Archer. And then Lance Archer came in there and barked at Eddie Kingston, and then they yelled at each other. They were bickering about something, and then Jake the fucking Snake Roberts. And he was wearing, oh God, like a leopard print shirt that was tucked into his pants, and it seemed to be not leopard, snake skin print, snake print. Snake's print shirt that was tucked into his pants. And he was like, you want to talk about tough guys? I'm like, oh my good Lord, what the fuck? Jake Roberts, what are you talking about? I just put a question mark after Jake Roberts said some stuff. Question mark? Like I have no idea what the hell he was saying. So we get Alex Marvez bothering Kenny Omega as Kenny Omega walks through some area. Apparently it's the backstage area or the locker room. He was kind of perturbed that they were in his house, but of course he paid that no attention. He just kept walking. And then he sees that Don Callis is bruised as they talk and banter amongst themselves. And Don Callis is like, oh no, it's no big deal. I just had an accident. And Kenny Omega, it's like a battered wife. No. You tell me what happened and I'll go fix it, okay? You just tell me what happened and I'm going to go fix it. I'll go make it right, okay? And then Don Callis is like, no, I need you to focus. Focus on the plan. And Alex Marvez is like, surely you don't think that Nick and Matt did this. And Omega was like, Nick and Matt? And, then, what's his name? Don Callis kicked him out of the room. So, naturally, Kenny Omega's going to go beat up the Young Bucks. Well, nope, that didn't happen. Anyway, the next match was Top Flight plus Matt Sydal versus Matt Hardy and Private Party. And, okay, so the Young Boys did what the Young Boys do. They did all the flips and dives and everything known to man. That's what they did. Matt Hardy looked lost at times. He also looked a little slow, especially in comparison to his boys. The finish came with Isaiah Cassidy hitting Dante Martin in the ribs with a chair, and then Quinn pinned him with the shooting star press. So I said in my Impact video, I don't understand why Private Party are heels. They supposed to be sympathetic, right? These guys are getting fucked over by this snake named Matt Hardy, who is taking 30% of the money. He's taking 30% of the money for this show, 50% of the money for their match at Impact. And they're basically working on his side. They're doing whatever he tells them to do. You would think that they will be reluctant to do this, but they're just all in. So then after the match, Private Party and Matt Hardy jump. Top Flight has a problem with what happened. So they get jumped by Matt Hardy and Private Party. They get beat up. And Matt Hardy lays everybody out with twists of fate. And that was fine. I'm okay with Private Party and Top Flight feuding. That sounds like that should be good. Look, Private Party need more reps working heel, and Top Flight always need more time. And then you got Matt Sydal and Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy, man, I think it's over. Like I keep saying, I think his in-ring days are done. And it's been a while. It's been a while since I thought Matt Hardy was really important as a ring wrestler. I think he's far more important as a personality now. And him being a manager like the Doc Hendricks for a Private Party is really a good thing. It's great. And here's me hoping that he goes full Michael Hayes and that he kind of trades on Private Party one day and just kind of jumps ship to Top Flight. Like that would be great. That would be excellent. Kind of like when Jimmy Hart turned his back on the Hart Foundation. I think that would be great. We got to build up to that, of course, but I'm all for that. I just kind of don't want him to wrestle anymore. I think I'm done watching Matt Hardy matches. Not saying I'm gonna fast forward through them or anything like that, but I think I'm over the concept of Matt Hardy needs to be in the main event, or he needs to be a top guy, or he needs to be super important on a card. I don't think I'm over that. I think I'm over pushing for Matt Hardy to go further and do better and do more. I think this is the position he should be in. This feels right. Him paying it forward, being the occasional tag team partner for Private Party in a 6-man tag situation seems right to me. Now, Matt Sydal I actually like. I think he could be doing a lot more. I think he just got signed. And he's just like, whatever. Whatever you tell me to do, boss, I'll do it. And that's it, because he likes getting paid. So then the next match was, the next segment was MJF going into the Inner Circle locker room. And he's telling these guys, hey, I don't really want to have this match, but, Jericho is our leader. And Jericho says he wants to have this match, so we're going to have this match. This, of course, is MJF plotting behind Jericho's back. So Sammy Guevara implies that he doesn't really want MJF in the group. And then MJF says, I love you guys. And he loves that Sammy Guevara is so forward about his feelings. And he really loves him. And he wants this all to work out. We're going to get this match and get it over with. And then we're all going to come back together as friends. This is obviously MJF trying to ingratiate himself to the Inner Circle while Jericho's not around. So he's going to put all the blame on Jericho. Jericho wants to have this match, right? So they are leading to MJF stealing the Inner Circle, the entire Inner Circle from Chris Jericho. They're going to kick Chris Jericho out. Okay, fine. Let's just see how it goes. I don't see why Jericho is so stupid, but let's see how it goes. So the next match was Layla Hirsch versus Penelope Ford. Hirsch is legit tiny, but she's stocky also, so she's pretty strong. And Ford so fine for her or whatever. The finish came with a Kip Sabian helping Ford win after Layla Hirsch did something stupid and jumped on the guys outside the ring instead of winning the match. I don't understand that. That's classic non-wrestling. I care more about looking spectacular and getting revenge than I do about winning. The focus should be always on winning. Winning. So then we get something that I was on the fence about because it was sort of okay, also sort of bad, also not very good, but also kind of good. So Miro is talking to Charles. Charles is Chuck Taylor, and Chuck Taylor is wearing a fucking tuxedo, which is awesome because he's a butler now. And Miro is talking, and he's not really saying much of anything, and nobody cares what he's talking about because Miro apparently doesn't have anything to say. And then so this is the good part. He tells Chuck Taylor to tell Orange Cassidy, who was sitting in the crowd just watching, stone-faced as usual, that I am your best friend now. And we finally get some emotions. Chuck Taylor is embarrassed. He's humiliated. He can't even look Orange Cassidy in the eye. Like his facial expressions are, he's looking away. And he's kind of like, has this sort of, damn, I have to say this. This sucks. And he doesn't even want to look him in the eye. And he's like, Miro is my best friend now. And he kind of like looks away. And it's almost like shit. It was a movie, or something, right? Where the dude took the guy's girlfriend and then made her tell him like, I'm with him now, and Orange Cassidy, he took his glasses off and his aviators, and he was just kind of looking like, And Of course, he was being made to say that, so it didn't really make much sense. But he was sort of disappointed in Chuck Taylor, obviously, right? He was disappointed that Chuck Taylor said it. Obviously, he's not going to blame Chuck Taylor for saying it because he's in this position where he has to. But it's interesting, you know. It was actually a bit of tension there, and the commentators are like, "Oh, he's been getting beaten down, and they've broken his spirit. They've broken the best friends." I'm like, a week? That's really where I was kind of like, it's only been a week. So let's. I mean, when you're gonna do something that's gonna be dramatic, let's take our time with the dramatics and not jump right into it. Like, the best friends are broken up. It's only been a week, but the best friends are broken up already. You know, it's like, no, he's just disappointed that this guy actually said that, and he saw his friend in this shameful situation, this shameful, humiliating situation, and it was not bad. Now, I'm not a fan of what Miro is doing, of course, because Miro's just not good in this role, but the angle itself and the performance of Chuck Taylor, I have to give him credit for this. Chuck Taylor is shit 90% of the time, 99% of the time, 99.5% of the time. But this is like that 0.5% where he's actually not that. He wasn't that bad. Give him credit for actually doing what a normal person would do in this situation. Is that's not be proud of himself and not be proud of what he's doing and actually be kind of ashamed and not being able to come to grips with that. And I give them credit for that. So, okay. Miro rubbed it in, of course, with thumbs up and applause and stuff like that. So then we get Kenny by God Omega, attacking Pentagon for reasons unknown. He beat him up along with the Good Brothers. The Good Brothers beat him up too. And then that's when I noticed that Kenny Omega was wearing pinstripe pants. And he was wearing he wasn't wearing stiletto boots, but he was wearing heeled boots. And, you know, he's jammed the heel of his boot into Pentagon's eye. And Pentagon now is out of... They've already just said he's not going to be back for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. So he's wearing like this purple and white shirt and these pinstripe pants. And him and the Good Brother, he does not look like... he doesn't look like he should be in the same group with the Good Brothers. But at the same time, you know, Jimmy Hart once said, if you dress like everybody else, they treat you like everybody else. So I kind of accept that Kenny Omega is going to dress like a goof. You know, this is kind of how people think rock stars and superstars and stuff like that are supposed to dress. They're supposed to dress abnormally. That's sort of the belief. So I'm okay with this, you know. Pentagon was a weird choice as the person to take out. But okay, or whatever. They just want to have Kenny Omega and Phoenix in matches. That's all. You know, it's like it's that simple because it's easy bait for the 5-star community. When you want to have 5 stars, just put Phoenix and Kenny Omega in a match and let them do stuff. You know, they're gonna go in there and do all of the flips possible and get 18.6 stars and, you know, 600,000 viewers. Anyway, the main event of the show, MJF and Chris Jericho versus Santana and Ortiz versus Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager. MJF and Chris Jericho win the match, which was fine. They played a mixture of the MJF and Judas themes, which was trash. Absolute trash. It was terrible. First, Ortiz, Santana, and Chris Jericho botched a simple sunset flip spot. Also, Chris Jericho botched a lion salt and almost broke his own neck. I'm almost at that point where I'm tired of... I don't want to see Chris Jericho anymore. I'm almost at that point. Not because I have a problem with him, but I think that he's going to hurt himself or someone else. I think that his performance is starting to deteriorate now. Okay? Tags is probably the best place for him. I'm okay with him in tag situations because I know he doesn't have to do all of the work. But I think Chris Jericho as a singles act is pretty much done. And it was a couple weeks ago when people were like, "Oh, can Chris Jericho even still do the lion salt?" And people were showing gifs of him or gifs or however that goes, of him still doing the lion salt. Like, yeah, he can still do it. He can still do it. But now he's like botched this one and almost killed himself. I think that might be the the standard. If Jericho can do the lion salt or not. If he can't do it, it's time to put the old horse on the shelf. They really gave a lot to Sammy Guevara in this match. They let Sammy Guevara do everything. He was doing 100 million flips. He was beating up everybody. He was looking like a world beater in there. They really fed a lot to Sammy Guevara. Mainly because they knew he was going to take the pin, and they think they're slick with that shit, right? You think you're slick. When that started seeing when Sammy Guevara bumped Chris Jericho outside the ring, and then did his little breakdancing thing in the middle of the ring, and he was kind of flexing on Jericho, I kind of raised my eyebrow, and I was like, he's taking the pin. Otherwise, they wouldn't give him so much. AEW is not smart, man. They are not smart. They do this all the time. They think giving you a lot of offense makes you look good, so that when you take the pin, you don't look so bad. And sometimes that works. Most of the time, it doesn't work. In this situation, it did work, though. That they really got Sammy over. I really still don't like Sammy Guevara. I still think that he just did all of the flips, and people have been doing flips all night. It's like people have been doing super kicks and jumpity doodahs all night. So what made his performance special? How could he stand out when Top Flight was doing all of this stuff? Private Party was doing all this stuff. The Hybrid 2 was doing all this stuff. That's the thing, man. You have to differentiate yourself, but it was fine. And this match, as soon as the match ended, well, let's talk about this first before we talk about the ending. That Jericho grabbed his baseball bat in a match with his friends. He grabbed the baseball bat, and he was going to hit Jake Hager with the baseball bat, and he kind of shrugged a little bit, which I thought was kind of, that was kind of nice. Like, he was like, "Hey, look, I just kind of," and then Hager kicked him really hard in the face before he really even got started. And then Hager also stopped MJF, who was trying to use the Dynamite Diamond Ring to cheat. So, obviously the Inner Circle is up on Inner Circle cheating. So that was fine. The match itself was okay, I guess. Santana and Ortiz, I don't know, like, these guys really need more. They need to be doing more. They need to be with Eddie Kingston. They really do. I don't see how you can not look. I don't see how all those guys can be on the roster. You just can't naturally group like objects. You could just do it like you did with Hangman and FTR. Just have them hang out with Eddie Kingston all the time. And maybe Eddie Kingston is the guy who's like, "Man, this Jericho business ain't working out for y'all. This maybe the Inner Circle ain't working out for y'all. Maybe y'all should just come hang out with me." And then maybe after this, they just go start hanging out with him. Maybe that might be fun. But they went right off the air. They didn't even show a closing thing or anything. So I guess there was overtime, maybe. But of course, this wasn't my favorite episode of AEW Dynamite. But there was some stuff on here too. None of them. I didn't really enjoy any of the matches, if we're being honest. Usually there's at least one match that I think is okay, but there are some segments in here that I thought were fine. I was interested in Nick Camarado as a big dude who looked different. He stood out. He had a decent performance. They let Sammy Guevara do some stuff in the main event of the show, which was, not bad. Don Callis, of course, stole every segment he was in. He is so good. Really enjoying what he does. Now, I want to take the last couple of minutes here to talk about the AEW's women's division. I don't think it deserves its own video, or else I would have done it. So, Chris Statlander came out and said recently, I forget who she was talking to, but she was saying like AEW's women's division is very underdeveloped because a lot of the women have never worked on television. And, you know, she says like, oh, the guys, you know, a lot of the guys who never worked on television, they're hanging out with people and they're paired with people who have worked on television before. And that sounds like a really good excuse. But when you see that they were smart enough to know that when they did it with the men, they should have did it with the women too. There's plenty of women out there that they could have used. You know, Victoria, Candice Michelle, Alicia Fox. There's been women that WWE has released or they don't do business with, like Molly Holly is another one that they could have brought in to help train these women and get the women together. They could have done that if they wanted to. The fact of the matter is they just wanted to do the easy thing of bringing in the Japanese women and having the Joshis carry the division. That's what they wanted. Okay? And I think that we need to just accept that. So then we get another clip of, there was an interview with Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega's like, oh, I'm going to smile so brightly when all of the women finally get more TV time. And like he's not in control of the women's division. Like we heard that he was the one that was picking the talent and booking the women's division. He's the guy in control. He's the guy who decides how much time they should get and who's going to get the time. Right? So how is he going to, you know, be happy? And he's talking about, oh, they're training so hard. All the women, they're training so hard. And it's like, you sign these women and now you have to train them. You know, that's real weird. Why didn't you just get some experienced women? And they did have at least one experienced woman because they had Awesome Kong on the roster, right? But then she left, of course, to do a TV show. So I don't buy it. I'm not the biggest fan of women's wrestling anyway, but it seems to me like they're being badgered by the people who are supporters of women's wrestling, and they're seeing what NXT is doing with the women's division and WWE, what they're doing as far as letting women main event WrestleMania. They see that Impact has been doing important things with their women's division, and they're, you know, people are looking at them like, okay, your turn. And they're like, oh, well, we got all these untested women, all these women who've never been on TV before. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. It's like, no, it's not an excuse. Get some women to train the women. You know, Serena Deeb is there now. You know, I know she can't work magic on some of these bras, but I don't know how long it's supposed to. Look, I only say this because they promised it to their fan base. They promised their fan base equal women's representation on the show. That women would main event, they would get same kind of money, all that sort of stuff. They're not delivering. You know, that's the only reason I would even bring it up. Because I don't really give a shit about AEW's women's division. That's why it's at the end, at the 49-minute mark of this video. Because I don't give a shit. Right? But it is what it is. You know, be fair to your audience. If you promise them something, deliver it. You know, I know cards subject to change, attitude subject to change, but stop leading people on. Stop telling people that you're going to do it and then you're not going to do it. You know, maybe just say, look, we thought it was in the plans, but maybe we can't support a full division right now. Whatever, because you keep bringing in women. You brought in Ivelisse and Diamante. You're still signing. You brought in Tay Conti. You brought in some more women. You're just not using them. You're keeping them all on dark. So, whatever. But let me know what you guys think of this show. Not just AEW Dynamite, but also my show. Use the hashtag 3count commentaries to tell other people about the show and to get my show more attention. Thank you guys for listening. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you guys again someday.